We don't talk about it a lot, but a mother and son relationship can have a negative impact on a man's romantic relationships too. Go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe to my page, Peacefully Real. I am a very avid reader, and I've been like that since I was a little girl. Books was probably one of the gifts, the main gifts people used to give me growing up. And at a young age, I was reading like a lot of adult content books. One of my favorite authors is Donald Goins, and I was reading his books when I was probably like in the fifth grade. And one of his books that I still remember, and I ain't have no business even reading these books, but the book was Horse Hunt, and it's essentially about a man who is the son of a prostitute and one of her tricks. And she named him that on purpose because she wanted him to know exactly how he came about. And when he grew up, he became a cold-hearted pimp. And of course, that clearly affected, his relationship with women. His mama was having transactional relationships, and he grew up and seeing women as a means for transactions. And I feel like as a woman, having conversations with my friend girls and hearing what men have to say about how they think that a lot of times women's actions are a reflection of them looking for a daddy because they ain't had no daddy. Like, I realized, like, we don't really talk about the impact that mother-son relationships has on his romantic relationships with women, or just his relationships with women in general, quite frankly. And I don't know if it's one of those things that is not addressed because it's, emotional, traumatic, but I think it's important that it be acknowledged and looked into, especially when you are aware of what your experience was, and it can easily be tied to other people's experiences with you. And it ain't always, bad. I have had men who have relationships with their mothers that was full of love, respect, admiration. They held their mama in a very high regard. And it was reflected in how they navigated, relationships with other women. One of the men that I have dated, who quite frankly is pretty much like the only only one who has been able to maintain a genuine friendship with me, is because of how much he has shown me respect. And he was very respectful to me when he was courting me, and he continued to be respectful to me afterwards to this day. That is the thing that I will yell from the mountaintop about this man, is how respectful he is of me and how respectful he has always been. Matter of fact, can't nobody even say nothing to me about him because of how much respect he has for me, and it is my pleasure to return that same respect to him. He don't even know some of the conversations I done had where I almost had to put my foot up somebody's tail because they tried to say something crazy to me about him. But that's the level of respect that I have for him. And it's a reflection of the level of respect that I experienced from him. But I've definitely also, met men and had interactions with men where I could tell that their relationship with their mama was absent of respect, and they were bringing that into their, interactions and relationship with other, women. And I think that something that I learned from, my disappointments with, my parents, because here's the thing, is at the end of the day, it's 11:59, and ain't nobody in your life gonna be a picture of perfection. And I think as children, we are disappointed in things that our parents do because we don't see them as humans, as people navigating life in addition to being your parent. And I realized that even for myself, there were things that I had disappointments about, that when I looked at from that perspective, it was like my expectation was out of line. And there are just some things that I should not have expected simply because that's, that's my parent. They should have did this. They should have did that. Now, some things are not realistic when you look at them as a person as opposed to a parent. And I ain't saying that about everything, but I think that when you look at it from that space, you will see opportunities to give grace in some instances. And I think that that's something that, is important to consider, especially as we're maturing and allowing our experiences to impact others' experiences with us. I have, experienced, men being unable to have healthy relationships, and to be respectful and to create safe spaces for women because they just don't have the capacity to see them as people who are deserving of respect or deserving of consideration and deserving of love that is not tied to their consumption of the woman. And sometimes that's because of what they lacked in their relationship with their mom. And I think that we don't discuss that enough. And like I said, there is definitely something to be said about it, because if I could tell how you move with me is reflected in the relationship I see that you have with your mama, then why is it hard to believe that the issues that you had with your mama are not surfacing in your romantic relationships with women? Like, is that really a reach? You know what I'm saying? When it comes to men and women dating, and they don't have relationships, or they didn't have strong, relationships with their daddy, or they didn't have strong male figures in their life, that's a connection people easily make. But when it comes to a mother and a son, that we're not talking about that. And if we don't talk about it, how we gonna address it? You know what I'm saying? And I think that men looking at women as objects to be consumed, and men looking at women as, what is it that I can get out of her? How can I make her be useful for me? I always, I want to know, like, what's your relationship like with your mama? If you see women simply as an object like that, for you to use up, what's your relationship like with your mama? Because the men who have very healthy, loving, respectful relationships with their mama, they ain't moving like that. They are not moving like that, and I am here to tell you. And I've experienced men who have had amazing relationships with their mama, and they are not moving like that, and they are not faking in front neither. But yeah, y'all tell me, what y'all think. Is this something that is being swept under the rug? Is it hiding behind the mama's boy conversation? You know what I'm saying? And is it being hidden all the way behind the conversations about the women who didn't grow up with strong father figures. But yeah, y'all tell me what y'all think. Go ahead and like, share, comment, and subscribe to my page, Peacefully Real. So, are you wanting to grow your relationship with the Lord and you really don't know where to start? I can relate because I have been there. I had a strong desire to get closer to the Lord, but I just really didn't know what else I needed to do because I was already going to church service, going to Bible study, reading my Bible. And I ended up getting some very life changing advice from my grandma. And my desire to grow closer to the Lord became a reality. I can honestly say I have a friendship with the Lord, and I'm grateful for it. So much that I considered, what if other people are feeling like I felt? What is it that I can do to help them grow their relationship and experience and enjoy this same friendship that I had with him? And I created my ebook, The Relationship Standard. And in this ebook, I explain my journey and what my experiences were that have led me to where I'm at now. And you can now find this ebook, The Relationship Standard, at the website peacefullyreal.com.